my legal position maximizes the right of a woman to do what she will with her body, because the most important part of my legal position is I'm trying to counterbalance the potential mishap of killing a human that might be a mind or a person before 20 weeks, whenever I decide, whatever the science says on that. And I'm trying to balance that against the mother's right to have an autonomy to her body. The right to her body cannot be invaded.
You know, I actually used to have a very similar viewpoint to this as Destiny, where for myself, first trimester, yeah, that's fine, but anything after that was completely off limits for myself. But when it came to voting, I voted pro-choice because I didn't feel like it was my place to dictate anything. And I felt that way up until I saw the 6 to 7 week sonogram of my daughter, in which case it was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is surreal. There's so much joy, and people need to see this. Hey everyone, this is Matt Wills with Defining Ethos. So today we're looking at a pro-life versus pro-choice debate between Lila Rose and Destiny. So if you enjoy content like this, go ahead and subscribe, and let's jump into it.
Before we dive into arguments today, I want to tell you about one of the bravest people that I know, my friend, Liana Robledo. When Liana was just 12 years old, she was taking a walk to a supermarket. She was kidnapped and raped in Mexico City. After a suicide attempt, she was taken to the hospital where she learned that she was 13 weeks pregnant. The doctor urged her to abort, telling her that she shouldn't have to live with the consequences of her rape. But Liana asked him this question that left him speechless. She said, "Will abortion take away the rape? Will the abortion make me feel safe again?" Liana chose life. She gave birth at 13 years old, fought through post-traumatic stress disorder from her assault, worked as a cashier while finishing high school, and by 16 years old was providing for herself and for her daughter. She would end up graduating from UCLA, my alma mater, and she started a nonprofit to support assault and abuse survivors. She says something that I will never forget. Liana says, "I've never seen in my daughter the face of my assailants. She's an individual who had nothing to do with that. 2 lives were saved. I saved my daughter's life, and she saved mine."
So what she's doing there's actually pretty interesting for an opening statement. She's using an emotional anecdote to shift the Overton window. And so, like, emotional anecdotes are generally something that you'll see politicians use. There's this certain person in a certain place with this emotional situation, so empathize with it, and it generally just grabs empathy. What she's doing is she is taking on a sensitive part of the discussion, which is, you know, even people who are pro-life will still be like, oh, rape, incest, life of the mother, those things, you know, off limits or whatnot. And she's saying, no, let's start there. So instead of avoiding the tough topic, she's actually moving into that so that we can actually empathize with that topic before getting into the full discussion. It's actually pretty impressive to use it that way.
Abortion is the direct and intentional killing of a preborn child. Abortion kills a child via multiple methods. One of them includes a child being ripped apart limb from limb while still alive with forceps or vacuum suction. Or the abortion may involve stabbing the child in the heart or the brain with a large needle, injecting poison.
So Lila's definitely using language to her advantage here. She's making sure to say child as much as she can, preborn child, and then on the other hand using gruesome language like kill, and then describing the process itself, because a lot of people haven't actually watched videos of the process, and it is definitely gruesome.
All humans are created equal and endowed with that fundamental first right, which is life. The 14th Amendment promises equal protection under the law for all persons. If preborn children are human, and the science confirms that, they deserve protection. After Roe v. Wade was overturned, states protecting life saw abortion rates plummet. Texas saw a 99% decline in legal in-state abortions. The law is a teacher. It restrains evil and it protects the vulnerable.
person is the name that we give to the complex emergent phenomenon generated by the underlying physical structures of the human brain. To pretend otherwise is to strain one's imagination and force one to adopt a position that is both unreasonable and unintuitive.
So what Destiny is doing here is pretty interesting. He's speaking professorially with a lot of intellectual vocabulary. So this is an appeal to intellect, and I'm assuming he's doing this because he's speaking to a group of college kids, and they want to connect with a more intellectual type. It's also going to create a distinction of, hey, I'm the intellectual, rational side, she's the emotional side, so you're going to want to listen to what I have to say. He is laying it on kind of thick, but it's a really interesting strategy.
At times, it's possible to over-intellectualize things to the point of absurdity, like a painter taking a step back to look at his entire canvas, or a composer putting down his pen to play and listen to what he's crafted so far. It's good to occasionally take a step back and explore intuitions to ensure they haven't strayed too far from what is reasonable and what is real. If we have a clear and unambiguous ending for a thing, such as a person's life, then why not?
I'll bet you, because this is prepared, as things go on and they start getting into actual interactions, this language will start to just kind of leave naturally. Because he didn't have it prepared, he'll start talking like his normal self.
Investigate that ending to see if we can get any hints as to how it begins. In this debate, Lila's going to bounce between a lot of different words in order to try and force your intuitions to stray from where they would be otherwise. She'll casually swap words like child and fetus and embryo and human and person in order to confuse and obscure, but make no mistake, this confusion is not by accident, it's by design. She'll try to say that an embryo is not simply an embryo, but a human embryo, as though the answer to the beginning of life was always hidden in a Merriam-Webster dictionary waiting for someone to read it.
So what Destiny just did there is pre-framing, which is, here's what to expect from the debate, and here's the lens through which you should understand it. And he's saying that humanizing language will be an emotional distraction from the topic at hand. But by that same logic, then dehumanizing language, things like clumps of cells and parasites, are equally distracting as it's pulling the humanity out of the topic. So I'm wondering if he's going to hold up his end of the bargain there.
That there is something that is fundamentally different about a conceived embryo, a conceived zygote, a conceived prior to 8 weeks, just a bundle of cell thing. There seems to be something different about that in kind. It's hard to even speak of who's being harmed besides a collection of cells that isn't even aware of itself yet. What is she even defining conception as? Is it the moment the egg recognizes the sperm to permit entry? Is it when the egg no longer permits the entry of any other sperm? Is it when membrane fusion has fully finished? Is it when the first set of chromosomes have made copies of themselves, or is it after they've divided into pairs? Conception is just as much a multi-stage process as pregnancy, and to pretend as though there is one spark at a very precise moment in time that defines the entirety of conception is to scientifically misunderstand and misstate the process.
So that was just obfuscation. So when you get to a tangible point and you start to abstract into the ether, here's all of these things. It can't be so simple. How do you even focus on this? It's really just to make it so that the crowd can't actually discern, and it just feels too complicated.
I've heard her make references, and she just did earlier, to the 14th Amendment and the guarantee of equal protections, but why does she only consider those protections with regards to the rights of the fetus while completely ignoring the rights of the pregnant woman? And all of this while ignoring the first 3 words of the 14th Amendment she cites, which are, all persons born.
So that's actually a good point by Destiny there. The Constitution does say persons born, so Lila trying to use an appeal to the Constitution doesn't really work that well, and she should just abandon that, really.
Now, Destiny made a number of remarks here arguing against my position, saying, first of all, that our position of making children in the womb legally protected would somehow mean that we would need to create legal identities for every unborn child. It's not workable, therefore, he was arguing, which is completely false, because you don't need to create legal documentation for unborn children. We've had abortion banned before, and we didn't need to do that, and we can have abortion ban now, as we have in many states, and we don't need to do that. My position was argued from a foundational principle that our country was founded on, which is that we have a right to life and we should be given equal protection under the law based on the 14th Amendment. The reality is 9 out of every 10 people who have abortions are unmarried. Abortions is largely an unmarried people issue in our country because of premarital sex and the sexual revolution. People don't take responsibility anymore for the consequences of sex, which can naturally result in pregnancy. We have seen it now as our right to have sexual pleasure without commitment or responsibility or the lives that may come into existence. And the reality is, every single human life that comes into existence has a right to live. And that is why one of the many reasons why there should be sexual ethics. I think within a marriage, of course, sex is for two things. It's for procreation, and it also is for unity and pleasure between the spouses.
Apologies
so it was
for
a
the
misrepresentation
interruption, but
of the
we've reached
position.
the end.
I can't speak of a person when I talk about a fetus as being unconscious. It's not conscious. It doesn't even have the capacity to become conscious. If a friend were to take me to a McDonald's and we were to go outside and it was just a bunch of construction materials and he said, "Oh, sorry, it's McDonald's, but it's not going to be here for 9 months," I would say, "This is not a McDonald's, bro. It's not even here yet." If a friend were to take me to a McDonald's just closed 30 minutes ago and he said, "Hey, this is McDonald's, I promise, but it closed 30 minutes ago," I can see that it's there. It's just not currently performing the function that I would hope from a McDonald's because it's currently closed. The same way that a sleeping person is not the same as a person who isn't even born or created yet. It's just a sleeping person who can redeploy that conscious experience at any point in time and who has a meaningful experience that we can speak about that would have asserted some preference while it was existing as a thinking mind, which a fetus has never done. Sometimes this argument about abortion and rape comes up when it has to do with underage people or really any person. And I hear this weird argument floated that the reason why you shouldn't have an abortion if you've been raped is because an abortion won't heal the first rape. I truly don't understand this argument. When I go to the doctor to heal a wound, I'm not looking for them to get rid of the pain of the initial wound. I'm hoping that I don't have to endure additional infection or other complications related to said wound. If a person is raped and as a result of that rape, they are now pregnant, when you're having an abortion, you're not looking to undo the conception. You're looking to undo the following 7, 8, 9 months of having to carry a child that you never even wanted in your body in the first place.
Should women who have a high chance of miscarriage be banned from trying to conceive?
No.
So even if it was 50% chance of miscarriage, is there any other world where we would accept two adults engaging in a behavior that killed a child half the time it happened?
For the same reason that I don't think that we should ban people. It's Margaret Sanger as an example, right? The founder of Planned Parenthood. Her argument was that we should not permit those that were less fit to breed, to have children. And she actually wanted a 2-child policy. She wanted to sterilize. She actually proposed, and she actually was successful in having forced sterilizations of those that she saw as mentally unfit.
But there's no other circumstance you can think of where somebody could engage in a behavior that is so reckless that they know that there's a 50% chance of their child dying should they engage in that behavior, right?
That's a really interesting point that he's bringing up there. If a person has a 50% chance of a miscarriage, are they just knowingly, intentionally killing kids? And I would have to go on it. Like, I understand his point's very different, but I would have to go and say no because of the intent, right? People that are like trying to get pregnant and have kids are trying so hard and hoping and wishing that will happen to them. It's not like the person is like, oh, time to kill some more, but really interesting take.
Are you saying all abortion should be legal, or what abortions should be legal and which should be illegal?
I would argue that because of how doctors have to approach medically required abortions for the life of the mother, even in later trimesters, that all abortion should be legal, because if you start to make it illegal, then what happens is in the
this is
second,
a
third
new
trimester.
position, is it not?
So right there, he's using the life of the mother argument to sneak in all abortions. And here's the trick to this, right? That talking point works super well from a pro-choice stance, because a lot of times people are talking to pro-life people that are religious and are like, abortion is off the table, and they just hold their ground at that. But here's the thing. If you use a pragmatic approach, you will win. So if someone brings up life of the mother, you could literally be like, you know what? I'll make that deal. How about life of the mother? You guys get that, and everything else is off the table. And immediately you'll see them be like, well, no, that's not right. That's not right. Well, but that was the thing you were concerned about, right? So the thing is what people do is that they take life of the mother, and that's carrying the weight of everything else that doesn't make sense, like using abortion as contraception and stuff like that. So if you take a pragmatic approach, you're going to do pretty well.
Do adults have responsibilities for children?
Generally speaking, yeah.
Do adults, generally speaking, have the responsibility to use their bodies to take care of children?
To use their bodies?
Yes.
No, we go to work and stuff, but we don't
Who's
use
going
our
to take care
bodies.
of this baby that's in place for adoption? An adult has to take that.
You don't put it in your body and take care of it that way.
But they still have to use their body to take care of this child, to feed and nourish and house this child. Is that not true?
It's a difference in kind of action.
I'm not asking about difference in kind of asking if you think that.
It is a difference in kind of action. It's active versus passive. It's passive action when it's in your body, and it's active action when it's outside of your body. And you could make a claim that it's more conscious action outside the body after the fact.
Within the fight against abortion, there's been some division over how the law should treat those who participate. Some believe that both the abortion provider and the mother should face criminal penalties, while others disagree. What is your position on this issue, and how can we go about bringing unity within our movement?
I think that there should be criminal penalties for those that intentionally and willfully take human lives. And that can be the abortion provider, certainly, and that can be a mother and or a father.
So that's going to be a rough, unpopular opinion for a college crowd like this. Well, what she's saying is that if we make abortion illegal, not only would the doctor have to face legal ramifications, but so would the mother getting the abortion. So, yeah, definitely not going to play well to a crowd like this, but I mean, I guess good on her for sharing her actual opinion.
I'm wondering how you feel about people getting multiple abortions, like 6 or 7 in 1 year. And I don't know the statistics, how like common that is, but how do you feel about that and the idea of creating laws that enforce and prevent multiple abortions? And for Lila, would you be open as sort of like a compromise to accept a law that limits people's ability to get abortions?
If it's before that 16-week cutoff, then I guess I wouldn't really care. It'd be the same as contraception to me. There's a lot of religious people that view Plan B as being the equivalent of having an abortion. If it's after that point, would you make limitations for it? I mean, I'm sure at some point there would be, I mean, if I'm telling her that she would have to begin investigations for, miscarriages, then in my world, we would have to commit to some kind of an investigation for, a second or third trimester abortion. I imagine there would be behavior that if you would engage in it enough, at some point, there would be a mandatory check-in or to figure out what's going on.
So abortion is already illegal in over a dozen states, and they're not miscarriage policing every miscarriage. Do I support abortion restrictions? Of course. I support completely abolishing abortion.
So that was actually a really good debate. I think that both Lila and Destiny did a great job representing their sides. They were civil the whole time, and they both made some interesting points. So yeah, all in all, it's pretty good. I definitely recommend going and watching the original video, and thanks for watching.